Good evening. Now your STV News, including the headlines for air. New rules on how people are treated in police custody have come into force across Scotland today. The changes under the Criminal Justice Act will give everyone held in custody automatic access to a lawyer, regardless of whether they are going to be questioned. But many of Scotland's solicitors have said they won't be able to cope with the extra work involved. 3 teenagers have been arrested after a 14-year-old boy was allegedly stabbed with a knife in a fight outside a school in Glasgow. It happened near All Saints Secondary School on Dry Hill Road yesterday. 2 boys aged 16 and 1 boy aged 17 were arrested in connection with the incident. MSPs are currently voting on the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. The legislation was brought in by the majority SNP government in 2012 to tackle sectarian abuse following a flare-up between Ali McCoist and Neil Lennon. Labour want to repeal the legislation, which they say discriminates against football fans. The Environment Secretary has asked the US government to consider lifting its 47-year ban on haggis. Michael Gove claimed that while President Trump had many faults, his mother was Scottish and hoped his roots would make him more sympathetic to Scotland's national dish. Haggis has not been sold in America since 1971 because it contains lungs. And the main stories in air. A husband who was jailed after killing his terminally ill wife has been freed after appeal judges quashed his sentence. 67-year-old Ian Gordon was jailed for 40 months last year after admitting smothering his spouse with a pillow at their home in Troon. But the decision was overturned at the Criminal Appeal Court in Edinburgh earlier today. And a 27-year-old man has been arrested after a priest was threatened and attacked in Kilwinning. The 62-year-old priest answered the door of the chapel house at St Winnin's Church yesterday afternoon when a man grabbed his collar and demanded money. He then grabbed keys from his hand, which were later recovered. Well, that's all we have time for just now. Remember to join us for the STV News at 6 in your area. But first, here's a look at the all-important weather forecast from across the country. Happy Burns Night. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather. TUI sponsors STV Weather.